a clash of ambition, a test of resolve, and a battle for supremacy that would echo through the ages. On one side, Rome rising from the ashes of the Samnite Wars, hungry for dominance over the Italian peninsula. On the other, Pyrrhus of Epirus, a warrior king, a descendant of Achilles, and a man determined to carve his legacy into history. This was no ordinary war. It was a confrontation between two visions of power, one old and one new. The war with Pyrrhus was not just a battle of armies. It was a contest of strategy, determination, and destiny. The war with Pyrrhus began as a localized dispute, but quickly escalated into a monumental conflict. At the heart of the tension was the Greek city of Tarentum in southern Italy. Tarentum, a wealthy and powerful city-state, had grown wary of Rome's expansionist ambitions. Their unease turned to outright hostility when Roman ships entered their waters, violating a long-standing treaty. In a desperate bid to counter Rome, the Tarentines called upon Pyrrhus of Epirus, a seasoned military leader with grand aspirations. Pyrrhus saw this as a golden opportunity. Italy was a fertile land teeming with resources and ripe for conquest. A victory here could pave the way for a new empire. By 280 BCE, Pyrrhus arrived in Italy with a formidable force, 25,000 infantry, 3,000 cavalry, and 20 war elephants, a spectacle never before seen on Italian soil. The stage was set for a confrontation that would test Rome's growing might against one of the greatest tacticians of the ancient world. The battles begin. Heraclea. The year was 280 BCE. The air was thick with tension as two armies, one representing the nascent power of the Roman Republic, the other led by the indomitable Pyrrhus of Epirus, faced each other across the banks of the Ceres River. This was not merely a battle for land. It was a test of wills, a clash of ideals, and the opening salvo in a war that would shape the destiny of Italy. Pyrrhus, ever the tactician, surveyed the battlefield with the keen eyes of a predator. His army was a marvel of discipline and diversity. Greek phalanxes stood shoulder to shoulder, their spears glinting in the sunlight. Cavalry units, honed for speed and precision, waited for the signal to strike. Most imposing of all were his war elephants, 20 towering beasts, their tusks adorned with metal spikes and their mahouts ready to unleash chaos. To the Romans, who had never encountered such creatures, they must have seemed like monsters from myth. The Roman legions, under the command of Consul Publius Valerius Laevinus, were no less formidable. Veterans of countless skirmishes, these soldiers were hardened by the recent Samnite Wars. Their lines were marked by order and discipline, their spirits unyielding. But as the elephants trumpeted and the ground trembled beneath their massive feet, even the bravest among them could not entirely suppress their unease. The battle began with a thunderous charge. Pyrrhus, understanding the psychological edge of his elephants, sent them forward first. The massive creatures trampled everything in their path, shattering the Roman front lines and spreading panic among the ranks. Roman soldiers, unused to such beasts, found their formations collapsing under the sheer weight and ferocity of the assault. Seizing the moment, Pyrrhus unleashed his cavalry. Swift and coordinated, they swept through the disoriented Romans, cutting down those who attempted to regroup. It seemed that victory was within Pyrrhus' grasp. Yet, the Romans were not easily broken. Rallying under the leadership of their officers, they regrouped and mounted a fierce counterattack. The legions fought with a determination that caught even Pyrrhus by surprise. The clash of swords, the cries of the wounded, and the relentless advance of Roman infantry turned the tide, if only for a moment. Pyrrhus, ever adaptable, personally led a charge into the thick of the fighting. His presence on the battlefield was electrifying. Draped in armor that gleamed like fire and wielding a sword with deadly precision, he inspired his men to press harder. By day's end, the Romans were forced to retreat, leaving the field and the honor of victory to Pyrrhus. But this victory came at a steep cost. Pyrrhus had lost thousands of his finest soldiers, men who could not be easily replaced. Standing amid the carnage, he reportedly murmured words that would echo through history. "Another such victory, and we are undone." It was a triumph, yes, but one so costly that it bordered on defeat, a Pyrrhic victory in every sense. Heraclea was a harbinger of the challenges to come. While Pyrrhus had proven his mettle as a commander, the battle also revealed the tenacity of Rome. For the first time, Pyrrhus understood the enormity of the task before him. He was not merely facing an army, he was confronting a republic whose spirit was unbreakable, whose resolve was as enduring as the hills of Italy. The Battle of Asculum to 79 BCE. The year was to 79 BCE, and the fields near Asculum in southern Italy stood as the stage for a showdown that would echo through history. The clash was not just between two armies, it was a battle of philosophies, of endurance, and of a struggle for survival. On one side stood Pyrrhus of Epirus, the ambitious Greek king whose dreams of empire were as vast as the heavens. On the other was the Roman Republic, a rising power whose soldiers fought not for kings, but for the Senate, the people, and the honor of Rome. Pyrrhus, fresh from his costly victory at Heraclea, knew he had to decisively crush Rome's will to fight. His army remained a formidable force, seasoned Macedonian phalanxes, agile cavalry, and the fearsome war elephants that had shattered Roman formations before. But his ranks were thinner now, each soldier a reminder of the heavy price he had paid for his ambitions. The Romans, led by the consul Publius Decius, were undeterred by their previous defeat. They had learned from Heraclea, adapting their tactics and bolstering their forces. Their legions, disciplined and battle-hardened, stood ready to face the Greek king again. To them, this was not merely a battle for survival, it was a declaration that Rome would not kneel to any foreign power. The calm before the storm. As the sun rose over the battlefield, the air was thick with tension. Pyrrhus, astride his war horse, surveyed the enemy lines. His advisors urged caution, but Pyrrhus' heart burned for victory. He gave the order to advance, knowing that the outcome of this battle could determine his fate in Italy. The Romans, positioned strategically on the high ground, prepared for the inevitable onslaught. Their soldiers gripped their shields tightly, their faces set in grim determination. Decius, a consul known for his bravery, rode along the lines, rallying his men with words of encouragement. "Today, we fight for Rome, for our families, and for the generations yet to come. Stand firm, and let no man falter." The battle began with a thunderous roar as Pyrrhus unleashed his elephants. The massive beasts charged toward the Roman lines, their tusks gleaming with metal spikes, their riders hurling javelins with deadly precision. The ground shook beneath their weight, and the Romans braced for impact. But the Romans had prepared for this. Engineers had crafted specialized weapons, flaming javelins and spiked barricades to counter the elephants. As the beasts approached, Roman soldiers launched their fiery projectiles, startling the elephants and causing chaos within Pyrrhus' own ranks. Some of the elephants, maddened by pain and fire, turned back, trampling Greek soldiers in their frenzy. Seeing the disruption, Pyrrhus ordered his phalanxes to advance. The Macedonian phalanx, a wall of spears and shields, moved with precision, pushing back the Roman infantry. The clash of steel and the cries of the wounded filled the air. The battle devolved into a brutal melee. On the Roman side, Decius displayed extraordinary courage. Leading a cavalry charge, he struck deep into Pyrrhus' flank, momentarily halting the Greek advance. His valor inspired the legions, who redoubled their efforts, locking shields and pressing forward. Pyrrhus, ever the strategist, responded with a counterattack. Personally leading his cavalry, he sought to exploit weaknesses in the Roman lines. His charisma and tactical brilliance were undeniable, but the Romans held firm, refusing to yield. The battle raged 4 hours, with neither side gaining a decisive advantage. By nightfall, both armies were battered and blooded, their strength nearly spent. Finally, Pyrrhus claimed the field, but at a staggering cost. Thousands of his finest soldiers lay dead, and his once mighty army was now a shadow of its former self. As Pyrrhus walked among the fallen, the weight of his ambition bore down on him. Victory had come, but it felt hollow, he famously remarked.
If we are victorious in one more battle with the Romans, we shall be utterly ruined.
The Romans, though defeated, were far from broken. They retreated in good order, their morale intact, and their resolve hardened. For them, Asculum was not the end, it was a lesson, a step in their relentless march towards supremacy. The Battle of Asculum was a testament to the resilience of the Roman Republic and the limits of Pyrrhus' ambition. While he had won the day, the cost of his victories was unsustainable. The Romans, with their unmatched capacity to raise new armies and their unwavering determination, would continue to resist, outlasting even the greatest of kings. Pyrrhus left the battlefield victorious, but his dreams of conquering Italy were beginning to crumble. For Rome, Asculum was a proving ground, a demonstration that their people could endure any hardship, overcome any foe, and rise stronger from every defeat. The Battle of Asculum stands as a reminder that victory is not always defined by who holds the field at day's end. Sometimes, the true measure of success lies in the spirit of those who endure, who fight on against all odds. For Pyrrhus, it was a warning of the price of unchecked ambition. For Rome, it was a prelude to greatness. The Sicilian campaign to 78 to 76 BCE, a dramatic turn in the war with Pyrrhus. The siren call of Sicily, a land of opportunity and peril, echoed across the seas. A king ambitious for glory, a people desperate for salvation, and an island embroiled in chaos. This is the tale of Pyrrhus' Sicilian campaign. A campaign where the promise of an empire clashed with the harsh realities of war, leaving a legacy of triumph and disillusionment that still echoes in history. By 278 BCE, Pyrrhus of Epirus found himself at a crossroads. After achieving hard-fought victories against Rome, the first and second battles of Heraclea and Asculum, his campaign in southern Italy had stagnated. The Pyrrhic victories had proven costly, his army was depleted, and his allies were wavering. Just as his position seemed untenable, an opportunity arose from across the sea. The Greeks of Sicily, particularly the city of Syracuse, sent envoys to Pyrrhus, pleading for his assistance against the growing threat of Carthage. The Western Mediterranean was a theatre of conflict between Greek city-states and Carthaginian forces vying for dominance. Pyrrhus, ever the opportunist and dreamer, saw this as a chance to establish a grand Western empire spanning Italy and Sicily. The vision of uniting the Greek world against barbarian threats, coupled with the allure of ruling the wealthy island, compelled him to accept the invitation. Into 78 BCE, Pyrrhus landed in Sicily with his seasoned army. His arrival was met with jubilation by the Greek cities, who hailed him as a savior. His reputation as a brilliant commander preceded him, and his military expertise quickly turned the tide against Carthage. Siege of Eryx to 78 BCE, Pyrrhus began his campaign by targeting key Carthaginian strongholds. The city of Eryx, perched on a mountain, was one of the most formidable. Undeterred, Pyrrhus employed his siege engines and tactical acumen to storm the city. His victory at Eryx not only secured a strategic position, but also demonstrated his capability as a liberator of Greek cities. Conquest of Panamus to 77 BCE. With Eryx under his control, Pyrrhus advanced to Panamus, modern Palermo. The Carthaginians, unable to withstand his relentless assaults, surrendered. Pyrrhus' campaign seemed unstoppable as city after city fell to his army. By 277 BCE, Pyrrhus had achieved what no other Greek leader had managed. He had united the majority of the Greek cities in Sicily under his rule. For a moment, his dream of a Western empire seemed within reach. He declared himself king of Sicily and began planning an invasion of Carthage itself, envisioning the conquest of North Africa as the next step. Pyrrhus' vision extended beyond mere conquest. He sought to reorganize Sicilian governance, promote Greek culture, and establish a Hellenistic dynasty that would rival the great empires of the East. For the Greeks of Sicily, Pyrrhus represented a beacon of hope against Carthaginian domination. However, Pyrrhus' dreams soon began to unravel. His attempts to consolidate power in Sicily were met with resistance from the very Greek cities that had welcomed him. His authoritarian rule, which included the installation of garrisons and heavy taxation, alienated the local populace. The Greek cities, fiercely independent and wary of centralized control, began to view Pyrrhus as a tyrant rather than a savior. Syracuse, in particular, grew restless under his rule. Meanwhile, Carthage regrouped and fortified their last stronghold on the island, Lilybaeum, modern Marsala, creating a stalemate. Pyrrhus launched a siege on Lilybaeum into 76 BCE, but the city's formidable defenses and Carthaginian reinforcements made it an unwinnable campaign. Frustrated by the lack of progress and growing dissent among his Sicilian allies, Pyrrhus famously remarked, "What a battlefield! I am leaving for Rome and Carthage." Disillusioned with Sicily, Pyrrhus decided to abandon the island and returned to Italy into 76 BCE. The invitation of the Tarentines, who were still fighting Rome, provided him with a convenient pretext to leave. He embarked with his army, leaving behind a fractured and chaotic Sicily. Pyrrhus' Sicilian campaign, though marked by early triumphs, ultimately ended in failure. His inability to navigate the political complexities of the island and his overreaching ambitions proved his undoing. The Sicilian campaign was a pivotal episode in Pyrrhus' career, showcasing both his brilliance as a commander and his shortcomings as a statesman. His victories demonstrated his unmatched tactical skill, but his failure to secure lasting unity or the limitations of his vision. Sicily, left vulnerable by Pyrrhus' departure, would soon become a battleground in the First Punic War between Rome and Carthage. Pyrrhus' campaign highlighted the island's strategic importance, setting the stage for future conflicts that would shape Mediterranean history. The Sicilian campaign was a tale of ambition and missed opportunities, a chapter in Pyrrhus' storied life that underscores the challenges of empire building in a fractured world. As we follow Pyrrhus back to Italy, the question remains, can he reclaim his fortunes and turn the tide against Rome? Or is his destiny one of relentless struggle and inevitable decline? Stay tuned for the next chapter in our exploration of the war with Pyrrhus, where we delve into his dramatic return to Italy and the battles that would cement his legacy as one of history's greatest but ultimately tragic military leaders. The final clash, Beneventum to 75 BCE, the endgame in the war with Pyrrhus. Every war has its climax, a decisive moment that defines the victors and seals the fate of the vanquished. For Pyrrhus of Epirus, that moment came at Beneventum into 75 BCE, a battle where ambition clashed with unyielding resolve, where strategies met their ultimate test, and where the rising star of Rome shone brightly against the fading dream of a warrior king. This was the final act in a saga of courage, determination, and destiny. By 275 BCE, Pyrrhus' Italian campaign was faltering. His victories at Heraclea and Asculum had drained his resources and morale. The Sicilian campaign, once filled with promise, ended in frustration and retreat. Back in Italy, Pyrrhus faced a republic that had learned, adapted, and grown stronger with every encounter. The Romans, led by Consul Manius Curius Dentatus, were prepared for Pyrrhus' return. Determined to end the conflict, they gathered their legions and advanced to meet the Epirot king. Pyrrhus, despite his diminished forces, was still a formidable opponent. With his war elephants and seasoned soldiers, he hoped to deliver a crushing blow that would finally break Roman resistance. The stage was set near the Samnite city of Beneventum, renamed Beneventum, good fortune after the battle. The terrain was hilly and challenging, favoring neither side. Pyrrhus planned to use his elephants as the hammer to shatter the Roman lines, while his phalanxes provided the anvil to crush them. The Romans, however, were not the same army Pyrrhus had faced years earlier. They had studied his tactics, learned from their defeats, and innovated their strategies. Armed with firebrands and javelins designed to frighten and disable elephants, they were ready to counter Pyrrhus' most fearsome weapon. The clash began with Pyrrhus launching a direct assault. His phalanxes advanced in tight formation, shields locked and spears bristling. Behind them, the elephants, adorned with war banners and armor, rumbled forward, their sheer size and power intimidating the Roman ranks. But the Romans held their ground. Under the leadership of Dentatus, they executed a well-rehearsed plan. Soldiers hurled flaming javelins at the elephants, targeting their vulnerable spots. The beasts, panicked by the fire and noise, turned on their own ranks, sowing chaos among Pyrrhus' forces. Sensing an opportunity, Dentatus ordered a counterattack. The Roman legions surged forward with discipline and ferocity, exploiting the disarray in Pyrrhus' lines. The Epirot phalanxes, formidable in open battle, struggled to maneuver in the uneven terrain, losing their cohesion under the relentless Roman assault. As the battle raged, Pyrrhus fought valiantly, rallying his troops and leading charges in person. Yet, the tide had turned. The Romans' resilience and adaptability proved too much for the weary Epirot army. Pyrrhus' forces began to falter, their ranks thinning under the unyielding pressure of the Roman legions. Realizing the battle was lost, Pyrrhus ordered a retreat. His army withdrew in disarray, leaving behind their dead, wounded, and the remnants of their once mighty war elephants. Beneventum was a decisive Roman victory, marking the end of Pyrrhus' ambitions in Italy. Pyrrhus returned to Epirus, his Italian dreams shattered. His campaigns had drained his treasury, decimated his army, and cost him valuable allies. Though his tactical brilliance earned him respect, his inability to secure a lasting victory highlighted the limits of his strategy. For Rome, Beneventum was a monumental triumph. It solidified their control over southern Italy and demonstrated their ability to adapt and overcome even the most formidable adversaries. The Republic's victory sent a clear message to the Mediterranean world. Rome was not to be underestimated. The Battle of Beneventum was more than a military engagement. It was a turning point in history. It marked the end of Greek dominance in Italy and the beginning of Rome's rise as a Mediterranean powerhouse. Pyrrhus' campaign, though ultimately unsuccessful, left an indelible mark on Roman military doctrine, teaching the Republic valuable lessons in strategy, discipline, and resilience. For Pyrrhus, Beneventum was a bittersweet conclusion to his Italian adventure. His name would live on as one of history's greatest tacticians, a man who challenged Rome at its infancy and forced it to grow stronger. Yet, his failure also underscored the challenges of sustaining a campaign far from home against a determined and resourceful foe. The war with Pyrrhus was a turning point in Roman history. It demonstrated Rome's ability to adapt and endure, even against a tactician as skilled as Pyrrhus. The Republic's victory solidified its control over Italy and sent a clear message to the Mediterranean world: Rome was a force to be reckoned with. For Pyrrhus, the war was a testament to his ambition and military prowess, but also his inability to sustain a prolonged campaign far from home. His dream of an Italian empire faded, leaving Rome to fill the void. Thank you for joining us on this journey through one of history's most fascinating conflicts. The war with Pyrrhus was more than a series of battles. It was a clash of cultures, strategies, and ambitions that shaped the destiny of the ancient world. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we delve into another chapter of Rome's rise to power. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to History Orlog for more captivating stories of war and history.